Good day, everybody. This is Matthew McQueenie from Conobos. Welcome to today's DX Cafe event, Kentico, Hybrid Headless and the Evolution of the DXP. Of course, DXP stands for Digital Experience Platform. Some might go back to CMS, Content Management System. We're going to be simple here and try to walk through all of these different acronyms and discussions and state of the market. And we are so fortunate to be joined by Dominik Pinter, the CEO at Kentico, to walk us through this. Welcome, Dominik. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself, or as much about yourself, and also the very interesting background that led you up to leading Kentico as the CEO?
Yes, sure. Hi, everybody. And Matt, thanks for hosting this session. My history, I will start from very childhood or teenage age. So my history with computers really go to early childhood. I was really, I would say, intrigued by computers since the very beginning. I started to program when I was less than 10 years old. Then when I got a bit older, I switched from Pascal and these very ancient programming languages to C, C++, then C#, PHP, a lot of this stuff, Python. I was really programming in nearly everything. I went to information technology was my subject or my class at college. And when I was actually at college, I started to work for Kentico for the first time. It was back then 2007. And I started at Kentico as a developer because at the time I really enjoyed programming everything. So I started to work for the company, did programming for 5-6 years as an individual contributor, then switched my position to team lead, technical lead. Actually, my team was the first one at Kentico who was doing the implementation for cloud. So we started to work with Microsoft Azure in early 2011 when it was still in technical preview. So at that point of time, I really enjoyed these deep technical challenges. I was also very interested in computer security, so I was doing a lot of stuff with that. Anyway, as time went by, I switched over to product management because I wanted to learn more about how actually clients use our product and how partners, digital agencies are doing the implementation. So that was in 2012, 13, something like that. Then I left actually Kentico. I did 2 other things. I did technology hospitality startup, product management there. Then I joined a big software corporate. There I was doing application performance management. And it was very interesting for me because it was very technical discipline, very technical piece of software for people in operations. And I was there also doing product management. I was director of product management, I think was my title back then. Anyway, I didn't like working really for such a big, huge company. And in 2020, opportunity came to get back to Kentico because Kentico at that point was already internally dividing into DXP solution and also Headless CMS, called today as Content.ai. And I first joined Kentico as a VP product. And in 2020, we started to build our brand new platform, which we launched a year back, Experience by Kentico. And so I was really at the beginning of of that. And after 6 months, I hired my team, I hired my successor, and I actually switched over to managing director of Kentico, because Kentico was still one company with 2 divisions. And then we did in 2022 in spring, we did the fundraising. That fundraising allowed us to completely split the company. So we carved out Content.ai into separate company. And since July 2022, we continue as completely separate companies. We continue under the name of Kentico. And I became CEO of Kentico, and basically our founder and former CEO Peter Palas became chairman of the board of our company and also Content.ai. So that's my brief history and my journey all the way from developer into CEO role.
That's very interesting. And I think when we look at this shot here, you were kind enough to host me up there, and we had a nice video session and talked into some things that delve deeper into this, if anybody wants to look into that. But there were 2 things that stuck with me. One, it's so interesting that you were in the one company basically since its inception. And I think you did say here developer, but I believe you actually started in QA from what you said, which is fascinating. So if you could talk to that. And then also the idea of that 5 years where you stepped away, I think it's so mature that you felt you needed some seasoning in the industry and to see a different 365-degree vantage to help you to be the role you are today. So QA and that 5 years.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that's right, actually, because before actually joining Kentico, I was working as a contractor for some other companies, and I was very young and very naive. I would say even stupid, because as a kind of like contractor or businessman. So I was really deep into coding, and I wasn't very successful commercially. For example, people didn't pay me when they found bug in the software and stuff like that, and I didn't know anything about how it works in software industry. So I was just coding and doing a lot of stuff for the same amount of money as I would, I don't know, like sell in grocery store. But anyway, so then actually, when I realized that it's like too much amount of work for too little money, I basically made the decision to join some real company and not to work on my own. And at that point, I was like, okay, being developer is too hard. So I need to get something where I actually have less responsibility and accountability. And when I was doing the interview process, Peter Palas wanted me to hire as a developer, but I actually didn't want to because of that like responsibility and because of the fear that I'll be doing like bugs and nobody's gonna pay me for fixing my own bugs and stuff like that. So I joined as QA, and after 3 months of doing QA, 3 or 4 months, actually Peter convinced me to become developer, and this is how my developer career started. So that's one thing. And then the second thing, that 5-year break sort of from Kentico. Maybe it's worth to mention also that when I was joining Kentico, the company had 20 employees. Today we have 200 employees, so 10 times bigger. So that might be also an interesting fact. Anyway, when I was having that 5-year break from Kentico between 2015 and 2020, I basically like left Kentico to get some broader experience within the space, and I really joined early stage startup on purpose, just to learn how you can create really product completely from scratch. So the startup which I joined had very deep pockets. We had 25 million euro on our bank account. However, we didn't have any product, we didn't have any clients, we just had bright idea and 3 years runway to create company out of that. So in those 3 years, I would say that we really disrupt the market, and there were other companies who started to copy what we are doing, and much larger companies than we were. So that was definitely a good feeling. And our clients back then were hotels basically, and we when I joined, we had exactly 0 hotels on that platform, because that platform didn't exist when I joined. We built a platform, and in those 3 years, we got it to 6,000 hotels. It was premium model, so not everybody was paying, but still, in my opinion, quite impressive, and we really led the way. And then in 2018, this startup got acquired by their major investor. So that was the exit event. And after that, I decided that hospitality technology as a space is not that much interesting for me. And since many of my colleagues in that startup back then were from much larger companies, and they were telling me all the stories, how it works in those large corporations, I really wanted to join one of them. So that's why I decided to join really a big 20,000 people company, which, well, actually, when I was joining, technically, it was less people. I think it was like 5,000. But immediately after I started, we went through merchant acquisition. So it was very interesting that us as a 2 billion company, I think at that point, we were bought by, I don't know, like 20 billion company or something like that, you know. So it was very very interesting. And at that company, I had the chance to really work with the largest companies in the world on a global level. So really our buyers were, for example, like CIOs of big telco companies in US, somebody like AT&T, right? So really, really big corporations, and we were doing the deployment of our product in these super large environments. So it was very, very interesting. But for me, it was simply too big. And so that's why I decided that this kind of like a mid-sized company like Kentico is a much bigger fit for me. And it was one of my motivations to go back. The other motivation was really the culture of the company, because the 2 other companies I worked for, they weren't bad or anything, but still, when I compare the culture of Kentico and how I kind of enjoyed working for Kentico, it was my best working experience, and that's why I just wanted to go back. And I think that I definitely made a right decision for myself.
I think so. So let's start from base principles here. Let's go into, let's pretend no one knows who we are, what we're doing, that we're in this space. What is Kentico? I have the pronunciation there because you probably hear all kinds of pronunciations. And then as you tell us what Kentico is from your point of view, also, I never thought of this. Where does the word come from?
Yes, so I can tell you what how the name has been created. So the name of the company has been created at the very beginning in 2004. We never rebranded from the original name, and the name is actually a combination of 2 other brands. There is Canvelo, which is a clothing brand, and there is Texaco, and I think that there are like gas stations or something like that. I don't even know. So Peter Pallas, for whatever reason, liked those two brands, and he just thought that it's a good idea to combine these two brands together, and that's why we are called Kentico. And also the logo, the flower, that was something what Peter just created one night, and we actually tried to change the logo many times. Like it feels like that every time when we got like new VP marketing, because we had the time period at Kentico where we were changing VP marketing like every year or so. And with every new VP marketing, they always try to introduce new logo. But no logo really worked. So at the end of the day, we still stick to the original flower, which just Peter created, because like he didn't have time to, I guess, like think about it that much, because he had a lot of other stuff to do. So he just created this logo like one evening, and we are living with that since then. And I don't think that we actually ever changed that. So that's the logo and the name. And what is Kentico? So what we are doing is that we are helping digital marketing teams to conquer the world. And how we are doing that? Well, our platform really allows digital marketing teams to manage all their digital channels. And of course, the most significant one is the web, but there is much more than web today, right? Like you have social media, you have email, you have many different channels. You might have completely different devices, right? Like you have mobile phones, you have Internet of Things, you have many of other channels where you want to produce your content, where you want to interact with your audience. And really, Kentico provides a platform to allow you to do that, right? To produce the content, publish that content, distribute that content to all of these various channels, and then analyze the impact, right? Like, and what is there for especially the marketing teams is really analyze the performance, right? Like, is my audience engaging with that content? How do they like that, right? Like, do I get some leads or potentially business out of that, right? So we help you not just like distribute the content and publish the content, but also analyze the impact, analyze the performance of your marketing campaigns, and so on and so forth.
That's great. We're going to dive deep into some of the elements of this hybrid headless, unified. We might not say monolith probably, but that word's out there. Before we go to that though, we always talk about this at Konobos as a joke. When you're at a cocktail party around new people, when they say, what do you do for work? What is your answer, and how has it evolved over the years?
It really depends what sort of cocktail party it is, because it could be as stupid as saying like I'm the computer guy, right? Like many of my friends and family, they are like, okay, Dominik works with computers, or he's the IT guy, right? Like that's why every time when I visit like my parents, or somebody like from family, they are like, oh, and by the way, like, my cell phone got broken. Like, can you fix that for me? Because you are IT guy, right? I think that many of the developers understand this pain of, all of their friends and neighbors and family wanting them to fix like their computers and cell phones and stuff like that. So it can start really there, and that's really the lowest bar it can get. Then I was actually trying to explain to my kids what I'm doing, and like today, when I talk about like that I am CEO, the interesting thing is that, for example, my kids don't understand this concept of like, okay, daddy, if you are the boss, why you are spending so many hours at work, right? Like, why not others just like go and work for you, right? Because you're just telling them what to do, and then like you can just go home, right? And so I'm trying to explain them that it's not like that. That actually the amount of work and effort and the disasters, is very much aligned in where you sit in the hierarchy. So when I used to be developer, right, like my only problem was really just dealing with the code. And at the time, I was just saying everybody, all right, I'm software engineer, or I'm writing code, I'm creating programs. That was fairly easy. And then when actually I became product manager, it was like more difficult to explain, because then I was trying to explain, well, I'm actually telling to software engineers what to build in order to sell the product, right? In order to help our clients. And now, like when I switched actually to general management role, like a friend of mine told me that actually the CEO job is basically consists of like two parts. One is like just waiting for the problem to happen, and second, like solving that problem which just happened, right? So, and I think that's the great definition of what I am today and what I'm doing. It's just about like just observing like what is going on in the market, what is going on in the organization, and everywhere, and just basically look after the opportunities where we can improve, and then try to enable other people and help them to solve their challenges, and enable them to work better, more efficiently, have better impact, and stuff like that. But many days are just like dealing with the problems of other people, and dealings with the problems of the company, and dealings with the clients' problems, and partners' problems, and just go from one problem to another, and sometimes like trying to juggle all of these things. Yeah.
Well, it's funny because I was going to say, probably when you start out, when you were that QA engineer, and then when you're CEO, that's the easiest thing to explain. It's like, I'm CEO of a tech company. But that's a really fascinating take there. So let's go into Kentico's ICP. For those who don't know, many in the industry do know, but ICP stands for Ideal Customer Profile. So it is what the solution you bring to market, who it best serves. So if you could talk to us a little bit about this, you go over it probably for, it's a big part of your life. If you could talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, and one thing which I'm very proud of is that we are our own customer, and we are actually doing the software for the companies who are like us. And I guess that the easiest definition of that is that if you are a company who has really high potential and who is growing and really can beat much larger competitors out there, then you are our target. So we are who we are not. We are not the software for the largest companies in the world, like those telco companies I mentioned a minute ago, AT&T of the world. Yeah, we are not for them. But we are also not the software for the smallest companies, right? So when we talk about these digital channels, if you are a small coffee shop and you just need the website with the contact information where people will find you and what's on your menu, you better go with Facebook pages or Instagram or TikTok these days, right? Like you don't need really any kind of sophisticated platform. However, if you are the business who has maybe hundreds of employees, and your business objective might vary. Like we work primarily in financial industry, in manufacturing, in healthcare, in government organizations. These are common verticals, and there typically when we look at the US and we look at banks and credit unions, we typically work with the banks who are really the top banks on the individual state level, or maybe who operate in few states, but not really on the entire level of the entire United States. But these banks, they bring something unique to the table, right? Like they have some unique value proposition, which maybe work much better for their local community, or there is something special around them, right? And this is really the company or the company we target, and the company we like to work with, because they can actually excel and beat much larger competition, right? Like company who is 10 times bigger and maybe has like 10 times bigger marketing budget, right? Like, and we are building software for them to enable these smaller companies in the market. We call them mid-size or mid-market. These companies allow them to really, beat much larger competition and really beat all of those dinosaurs in their industry, and really, bring something new, innovative, something special to the market. We don't look that much on the size of the company per se. What we tend to look at are two different things. One is the size of their digital marketing team, and that's typically between 10 to 15 people. So it's a team where everybody has to do everything, sort of, and there are people who really are responsible for doing some campaigns, but they need to do end-to-end campaign, right? They can't afford to have like specialists on some individual tools and stuff. They really need to deliver and get their stuff done on their own, right? And that's really one of the big advantages of our product, that actually our platform allows you to do the things end to end, and it allows you to do that as a digital marketer. So you do not rely always on developers or IT department and other parts of the company. So that's one characteristic. And then the second one is digital maturity, how we call that. And this is really how we kind of assess where the client is, right? And if that client really just needs, as I said, just the website with the opening hours and with the products which they use, they are probably not our target. However, if they have some internal systems already in place, they might have some ERP, some CRM, some other solutions. Maybe some of them are even built on their own by their internal IT department, right? And they need to connect that with their front end, right? With their digital channels, whether it's website or some other channels. And they want to create one platform, one digital platform to really provide great customer service for their potential and existing clients. Then our solution fits into this picture very well.
That's great. So I want to now talk about, we've talked about the customer profile. So a lot of this will probably align with that, but I'm interested where Kentico fits in to this DXP CMS marketplace, these acronyms we talked about. We hear a lot with, fully headless, fully composable, as we said before, unified, more monolithic systems. And we will talk about hybrid headless after this, but just in a general kind of layman's simple term, how do you feel that you stack up in the market against your competitors?
Yes. So I'll just go to where we actually met. It was this January back in Florida. It was CMS expert group meeting, and there I presented this one slide which had all of these acronyms, just sitting there in one slide. Right, there was like DXP, CMS, headless, composable, and all of that. And I really do stand by what I said back. At the end of the day, I really don't care. It's all about the clients. And in our case, it's about the end client and about the digital agency who creates the project for the end client. And it's all about their business objectives. It's about achieving what that end client, what that business needs to achieve at the end of the day, right? And we provide the tool and the solution which allows them to really do what they have to do, right? Like whether it's like increase of their fan base, whether it's selling goods online, whether it's, just the information, whatever it is, we just provide the tool set and the platform to allows them to do that. And for some clients, it's better to have their solution done more in traditional way, which means actually that the digital marketeers can do everything on themselves. They have kind of this WYSIWYG experience where they modify something and it's immediately visible on the website, right? And so that's one approach. The other approach could be that actually you have some kiosk application at the airport. Let's say that you are the hotel, right? And you want to provide some information for the guests coming, from the airport. And so there actually you use different technology, right? And for that you use more headless approach. Then it's also about how much of our tool set you want to use, whether actually you want to use maybe some other solutions, right? So our platform, for example, combines content management and email marketing together, right? But again, it's up to the client and it's up to the digital agency to really decide what's the best way how to achieve that business objective, right? So they can use us as all-in-one solution, meaning that they use as much as they can from our platform, and they use email marketing, they use personalization, they use AI for generating emails, like whatever it might be. Or they might use some specialized tools, really depending on their digital maturity, right? So we are both all-in-one and also composable solution, right? There is also the other question, right? How you want to deploy your product. Are you large organization, which maybe have really own private data center? That's fine. We can fit into that. If you don't have that, you are maybe smaller organization and you actually want to have no worries about about your infrastructure and how it's managed and availability and stuff like that. You can leave everything up to us and use our software as a service solution. So what we use and how we present ourselves is a hybrid headless solution, and we gonna get to that I think in the next question. But really, that hybrid for me is very important because we are hybrid, meaning flexible. So at the end of the day, we really want to achieve the business objective in best possible way, and that's why we are building the platform, which is very flexible, very hybrid, and it's built for various use cases. And it's really up to you how you put everything together and how you really use the platform. Because ultimately, I don't believe that it's best to always use headless approach or composable approach, but it's really based on the use case, because there are use cases where headless is important or where composability is important, right? But at the end of the day, all of these buzzwords and all of these terms, these are not products. They are just individual features or capabilities of one product which we provide.
That's a great point. And as a follow-up on that, I think that headless does become kind of the shiny new object. And then now it's really in the lexicon where decision makers might be asking for it, and then they might not fully know what it is yet. And I wonder if, from your point of view, being on the market, talking to customers, talking to partners, when it all comes back to it, how important the unified login and access to all of these aspects right out of the box, plus the price, the total cost of ownership, without getting into the numbers, it is typically, I think, more affordable while getting all those elements with Kentico, right?
Yes, and I think with all of what happened in last 12 to 18 months, the price and the cost of everything and total cost of ownership, and even more importantly, return on the investment which you are making is even much more important. We see more and more clients really doing much more due diligence and really looking more deeply into what that product or what that company is offering, and whether actually they can use that wisely, and whether they can really leverage full potential of what they have in that product or in that platform. And this is really something where I believe we excel. And this is where I would think we are the best company in our market, in our industry, because we might not have the most rich feature set in the world. There are definitely competitors out there who have more features, more capabilities. And there are definitely solutions which are perceived to be cheaper than us. However, where we really do excel is that value which we can provide, and how much you really pay for that. And really, when it comes to that, these two magic terms, total cost of ownership, how much you pay versus how much you get out of that, and ROI, what's the impact which you can make. This is really where I believe Kentico really excels today.
And the last point on that, because I've seen it firsthand in marketplace, like demos and things like that, demoing your solution to potential customers is probably a bit of an easier job because you have all these tools to showcase, as opposed to, if a customer is not quite fully up to speed on what headless and composable is, but they want to start getting demos, you'll often hear the company giving the demo say, well, what would you like to see? And then they start ticking off all of the parts of the stack and it's not meant to be that, right? So I imagine when you do demos, you're able to actually answer the pain points truthfully, transparently. Not that they're not being truthful. It's just there's a gap between the education, I think, and where we are. But that must be a nice process demoing.
Absolutely. So a couple points here. First of all, yes, definitely there are companies, and we see that quite often, that they simply come and say, okay, we're really looking for headless, composable, blah, 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 right? And they are asking, okay, are you that, right? Are you software as a service, composable, headless, DXP platform? And we say, yeah, what's the problem which you are trying to solve? And then they start to talk about their challenges, their problems, their opportunities, how they want to leverage the platform. And of course, we can show them all of that. And really, we can demonstrate, many capabilities, many tools which they have, which we have like out of the box. And in some discussions, it even leads to the fact that they realize, okay, we are using this special one-purpose tool, so we can cancel that and we can transfer everything over to Kentico, right? And so we even help them to actually consolidate, which is another thing maybe to mention, and that's this whole consolidation of the platforms or content management systems. That starts to be quite common use case when we look at our client base and our potential clients, where they come to the table saying like, yeah, we have this headless, then we have WordPress, of course, we have this solution and that solution, and we really allow them to consolidate everything together into one umbrella. And we really, in our platform experience by Kentico, we really try to make sure that the platform can very well work with reusability. So you really have one central content hub, and you can reuse the content in various channels, in various ways, and you can really take 4-5 platforms which you maybe have in your current technology stack and consolidate everything under one solution, and that solution is Kentico, which really helps you in many ways. First of all, it saves you money on the licensing agreement, stuff like that. It makes your operations, not just content operations, but whole marketing stack operations much easier and much more straightforward. You have less education barriers, right? Because if you work just with one solution and you understand one part, you automatically understand all the other parts, which maybe is something what I should mention, because the unique value proposition, or one of the unique value propositions which we really bring to the table, is that our platform is not created by merchant acquisitions, right? Like everything what we have in our platform, we build ourselves, and we build that by one team which sits in one location, and they sit in that one location together with product management, and that product management is constantly in touch with our end clients and with our partners, digital agencies. So we really understand how the projects are getting built and how the end clients are using the product, and our product managers are transferring this knowledge over to our engineering teams, and this is the way how we build our product, right? So it's not some kind of a platform which would be composed out of 3 different or 5 different tools done by completely different teams who never met each other, and then this company would just merge all these companies and try to create one kind of offering out of that. We are not like that, for sure.
That's really fascinating. The idea of, as well, there's not a feeling of a sunk cost on the part of the customer, where you don't feel like you went down a dead end necessarily with being on a certain software, because it's actually a discovery and informative aspect to how Kentico can potentially help answer that, pick up from what was learned in that last piece. So, sorry, let's go to the big word here. We hear it a lot. It's the new one. And I think from what we've discussed here, it's going to serve a lot of markets. Can you explain technically and then marketingly what hybrid headless means?
Sure. So technically, it means that actually you can use our platform in 2 approaches. So there is a traditional approach, which is that business user, let's say content editor or marketer, goes into the product and basically uses the components of the product, creates the landing page, right? So they take some widgets, they take some images, they put everything on the website, they hit publish, and landing page is done. They can personalize that, of course. They can use even AI if they want to get fancy to get some like generated text and so on and so forth, right? So that's the traditional approach where marketing person does everything themselves using the kind of visual look and feel and creates kind of the pages and the content directly in the browser and immediately publishes that. And there is like no involvement of anybody else whatsoever. So that's the traditional approach. The other approach is what is called headless. And headless means that actually between that platform, let's say Kentico, and the website, let's say, is basically the API. API is is basically like a communication where basically like I would say technically these are two completely different applications, and they are just using the program interface to communicate between each other. So when digital marketer creates something in the platform, let's say in Kentico, this gets transferred over via those APIs to the website, to that end product front end, which is then seen by the users. That's, for example, that use case with the kiosk I was talking about, right? So it doesn't have to be necessarily a website; it could be some different channel, right? So you want to publish the schedule of the bus which comes to the airport and takes the guests to the hotel. So you as a marketer create that. This gets transferred over via the APIs to that kiosk, and then kiosk displays the information. So in first case, in the traditional case, you have basically one application where you have both the backend, where content editors are creating the stuff, and then you have the front end together, kind of. It's coupled together. In other case, in the second one, these are two separate applications which are decoupled. Now, when you have that second case, there is like clear division of responsibilities. So the person who is responsible for creating of that front end of that digital channel, let's say of that kiosk, is some programmer who takes care about visual, about the style, about how the everything's gonna look like. So really about the form, and the marketer takes care about the content. And marketer sometimes doesn't even see how the content's gonna look like at the end, even though there are some preview technologies which allows you to somehow simulate how it's gonna look like. But basically, there is a little bit of disconnect between the content and the display. And also, whenever the digital marketer wants to do some adjustments to the front end to final result, there needs to be some developer involved who is going to change something, change the visual style or whatever. In the traditional approach, you have just the business person. Now, that headless approach has many advantages, starting with performance, then with some automation, and so on and so forth. However, still, the issue is that it needs that developer, and developers are very expensive assets in every organization, and that's why you need to think twice, or maybe even more times than twice, whether or not this is the good use case and good use of that technology or of that approach. So actually, you use your developers in the best possible way and in the, I would say, most optimal way. And also, if you have time, to wait for developers to be available and so on, right? So that's headless. While actually with the traditional approach, the advantage really is that the business user can do everything on their own by themselves and very quickly.
So I wanted to ask you this question on the hybrid headless, on the headless. Do you find that this is important or becoming important as a talking point to your customer, to your ICP? Are they not there yet? Is this speaking more to the analysts and the marketplace? Like, what do you think about that?
Yes, this is excellent question. Maybe I should also, like, just for the clarity, explain what hybrid headless means. Hybrid headless means that actually we support both of these scenarios. So we do both. Yeah. So I think that, around 2017, 18, there started to be really that hype about headless. This was the time where all of these big headless companies today started to emerge, and this entire approach and movement started to emerge. And at that point, for many clients, it started to be important, and it came maybe a little bit later, so around 2019 to 20. It really became important to have headless platform, right? Because when they read some article from any analyst or anything, everybody was recommending, headless is the future. You need to have headless solution, etc. Right? So it was really tick box in every RFP, and if you couldn't tick that, you were out of the game. So that was situation back then. Nowadays, I think that many clients actually have tried this approach, and many of them realize that it's not for every single use case, that it's not silver bullet, and sometimes actually it's not even beneficial for them to use that, right? So if their main digital channel is website, and let's be honest, most of the companies are like that. Their primary communication channel is still a website. And yes, today it's more optimized also for mobile phones, but it's still a website. That's the primary way how they communicate, how they work, right? If it's like that, going just in headless route actually causes you so much unnecessary pain, and many companies saw that, burn their fingers, realize that now they're coming back more to traditional approach. However, they might have some use cases for headless, right? So they actually are getting stuck and trying to figure out what to do next. And this is where this conversation about hybrid headless really sounds to be quite important and is quite resonating with the audience, because they say, okay, this is really what I need, because my primary channel is website. However, I have some other, less important but still important channels which I want to manage through the headless route. And this is where we come into the play, and this is where we can offer a perfect solution.
That's great. It's always like analytics have always been kind of headless, right? Once those pieces came in. Let's talk about big things happening in October. So Kentico Connection. I always want to say connections, but it's Kentico Connection 2023. It's going to be doing a global tour from Brno to Nashville to Sydney. I think you're probably going to all of them. I guess you have to do that as the CEO. Could you talk a little bit about these events, what we're going to expect from it, and also what it means to get back out and in person again?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So first of all, I also call Kentico Connections this event. Everybody does that, so don't worry about that at all. I guess that because it's actually free events, it's allowed to call them Kentico Connections. Anyway, this is our annual conference. We do this conference mainly for digital agencies, for our partners, but also you find there some of the clients. This year, we getting back to face-to-face event after doing 2 events really remote because of the pandemic and COVID situation. And we also changed the format a bit, because the years before it was a lot about experts from Kentico presenting to the audience best practices and stuff like that. But this year, it's going to be more about the people talking to other people. So there is going to be some keynote from me and from our director of product about the future, about future of our product and stuff like that. But most of the other sessions are either the experts from the industry. So it might be some analysts, or it might be the client, or it might be the digital agency who is going to share their story, how they work with Kentico, what Kentico is bringing to them. And there is, of course, still a little bit of that education where you can learn from the both technical and business perspective how you can really win using Kentico. So first day is more like a generic session. It's more about the future looking and where we going and where the market is going and how different people see our industry evolving. And the second day is more about education, both on technical and business level, how you can use best Kentico as a product, as a solution, and how you can in general achieve the best business results, whether you are on technical side or on a business side.
We're very excited at Konabos because we will be a silver sponsor at the Nashville event, and we will be bringing what we are jokingly calling the Kenta Konaverse there to do interview snippets with as many guests. We're going to recruit you, of course, and we're going to really talk through the interesting developments. I would probably put money on the fact that generative AI will be a part of this, but we'll talk about the interesting developments, try to really follow in your footsteps of what you're trying to do to connect with community. And it's going to be, it's really going to be interesting. We'll be on but one stop on your journey. But I think we're going to talk as well in that one because we've had a great conversation here. We had some questions about Kentico will be 20 years old in 2024 because it started 2004. And we'll also have some discussions on Kentico and the DXP looking ahead to 2024. But I think what we'll do is we'll hold that for you. So it's something a little special to share from that for the Kentico connection stop in Nashville. But Dominik, it has been great as always to chat with you, and look forward to seeing how October goes and the events.
Yes, perfect. Thank you very much for inviting me. It was my pleasure, and I'm great to speak with you again. And I'm looking forward to meet you in person. And for everybody who's listening, please come to Kentico Connections. It's in Brno, Czech Republic, Nashville, or in Sydney, Australia. Everybody's welcome, and I'm more than happy to chat with you all there as well.
Great. Well, thank you, Dominik, and thank you, Team Kentico, and everybody out there. Have a great rest of the week.